All right, so these are going to be the answers for your trimester 3 review packet. Just as a reminder, coming up, we are having the trimester 3 test. So that will count as a test grade and cover everything that we've done in the third trimester, which is everything we've done online. And this test will be on Canvas. So I know that you're doing this on Cami or on paper, but you will be required to do the one on Canvas. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure you're checking Canvas, checking Google Classroom to make sure that you stay up to date with that information. So I'm going to go through the answers for you. So for number 1, it says in the expression 4x cubed, the 3 is the what? So these actually, the first few will be multiple choice on your Canvas test, but since it's the review, it was all open-ended. So if we take a look, 3 is raised above the x. So we know that anything that is raised above a base is going to be called the exponent. So it's important to know that. We would actually, just as a reminder, call x the base, and 4 is our coefficient. So the number out in front is the coefficient, the variable or number below the exponent is the base, and the raised number is our exponent. So again, the answer number 1 is exponent. So number 2, it says, given the expression 6x to the 4th and 8x cubed, what would be an appropriate first step? So if we take a look at this, this is actually the product rule because we're multiplying two monomials. So there's actually 2 possible first steps that you could do. The first step, possible first step, is to multiply your coefficients. So 6 and 8 are going to be the coefficients. So one option is to multiply the coefficients. Never spell that right. And the coefficients we have are 6 and 8. Or another thing you could do, this will be multiple choice, so you'll just have to kind of see what the options are. You could also, your first step could be to add the exponents. So you could also have an option of add the 4 and 3. So again, the important thing for this question was to recognize that this is the product rule. So product rule means multiply coefficients, add your exponents. Okay, so if we take a look at number 3, it says in the expression 2x to the 5th, what is the exponent on the x? So again, you want to remember exponents are those raised numbers above the bases. So if we take a look at the x here, there's actually nothing raised above it. This 5 here is on the y. So we know from our lessons that if there's nothing on the x, that there's technically a 1 there. So the answer to this is that the exponent is 1. So again, if you put 5, it's because you were confusing it with the y. And if you put 2, you actually put the coefficient. You didn't put the exponent. So since there's nothing there, the exponent is 1. Okay, if we take a look at number 4, it says to simplify the expression. So again, this is kind of like number 2. So our first step would actually be to multiply our coefficients. So the coefficients here are 4 and 3. So when we multiply those together, we get 12. We keep the base or the variable, so that's z, and we're actually going to add those 2 exponents together. So we're actually just doing 5 plus 6. So when I simplify this, it's actually going to be 12z to the 11th, and that will be the answer for this question. So you will have to show your work for any open-ended on the test, but if they're multiple choice, obviously you just pick the answer, but just a reminder, you do have to show your work if they're open-ended. All right, so number 5 is actually going to be the product rule. The power to power rule, and we know this because the 3 is on the outside of those parentheses. So technically what we're doing is distributing that 3 to all of the bases on the inside. So just as a reminder, that doesn't mean to do 6 times 3. What that means is do 6 to the 3rd power. Once you do 6 to the 3rd power, then you're also going to distribute that 3 to the 4 on the y. So it'll actually be 4 times 3, because again, with power to power, we're multiplying exponents. So we do know that 6 cubed equals 6 times 6 times 6. So again, that does not mean multiply 6 times 3. It means multiply 6 by itself 3 times. So that would mean our final answer is going to be 216, coming from 6 cubed, y to the 4 times 3, which will be 12. So that will be our final answer for number 5. Again, we had power to power, so we were distributing that exponent to the inside of those parentheses and all of those bases. All right, if we take a look at number 6, number 6 doesn't have any parentheses, so it's a good way to know that this is going to be not the power to power, but instead the product rule. So when we have product, we always are multiplying our coefficients. So we do 4 times 5 and we get 20. Then we take a look and we have two x's here. We have an x here and an x here, so we want to combine those together. So we know that there's nothing on this x right here, so that means just like the question above, that there is a 1 there. And there's a 2 on this x. So with product rule, we are adding. So we're going to add 1 plus 2. And then we have to take care of our y's. So we have y to the 3rd and y to the 9th. So this would become 3 plus 9. And then when we go ahead and simplify that, we keep the 20, make it x to the 3rd, y to the 12th by adding those exponents together. So again, this is a good example of how to show your work. You could, even if you wanted to go a step farther, you could have showed that you were multiplying 4 times 5, or you could have just simplified that to be 20. Either of those ways work. Okay, so if we take a look now at 7, 7 is going to be power to power because we have parentheses and an exponent on the outside. So very similar to number 5, but now we have 3 sets of bases on the inside. So you're actually distributing that 2 to the coefficient, to the x, and the y. So when we go ahead and do that, it will become, we keep the 7. There's nothing on the 7, so we just kind of distribute that power or do 2 times 1 and become 7 squared. Keep the x and multiply the 6 already on the x times the 2 on the outside. Keep the y and multiply the 8 on the inside by that 2 on the outside. So it does look a little bit messy here, but again, we're just showing that we're multiplying the exponents. So our final answer here is, again, 7 squared does not mean 7 times 2. It means 7 times 7. So it will be 49. Keep the x, multiply the 6 times 2 and get 12. Keep the y, multiply the 8 times 2 to get 16. So this here will be your final answer for number 7. And then the last one on this page, number 8. Number 8 has parentheses, but notice there's no exponent on the outside of either parentheses. So although there are parentheses, this is still the product rule because we're not distributing any exponents in, we're just multiplying 2 different monomials together. So again, first step is we want to multiply the coefficients, or the bigger numbers, out front. So we do 4 times 4, which will end up being 16. Notice how there's only one x here. So there's no x in this expression. So we'll just keep that x, and there's nothing to add it with, so we just keep it as the 3rd like it is. But now notice how we have 2 different y's, a y and a y to the 6th. So if it's helpful to you, make sure that you put that 1 there to know that this is y to the 1st power. So when we add those together, it'll be 1 plus 6. So again, to simplify that, you're multiplying your coefficients. 4 times 4 is 16. X to the 3rd, y to the 7th. So again, those are your answers for the first page. The first 3 questions were just asking you some things, some background knowledge about exponents. And then 4 through 8 were all different examples of power to power and product rule. So take a look at your answers, check them with mine, and feel free to email me if you have any questions on the first page.